Okay, so number 8 says we are going to solve the equation specifically using square roots. So can everybody circle the word solve? That means I want answers like x equals 2, x equals 3, x equals 4, those kind of answers. And I'm going to use the procedure of using square roots. So off to the side, I'm going to write this down. I have 6 plus x squared equals negative 3. Now I need to isolate the x squared. Opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. So I only have x squared left on the left-hand side, and I have a negative 9 on the right-hand side. How do I remove the square from an x? Like, what's the opposite operation of squaring?
Square root.
Square root, thank you. And that square, that little number 2, it means there's going to be 2 answers. That's why I have a plus or minus. Can I take the square root of a negative number?
No.
So the negative, Louise, comes outside and becomes a what?
Positive.
Ooh, no.
No, it's not real.
You're right. That's right, Luis. He's using the correct terminology. It becomes I. It's no longer real. So we put a little I here. And what is the square root of 9? The square root of 9 is 3. So whether I put I3 or 3I, that's the same thing. So now let's look around here. The only ones that have I's would be B and D. And here is an example of, this is the lazy math way to write plus or minus 3I. So there's a positive 3I, there's a negative 3I. Okay, so what are we going to do right now? We are going to simplify this, and I'm literally going to plug it in exactly like I see it. So I'm going to start with a parenthesis, and I'm typing in 10 plus 4. Now I need to grab that I. So how do you get the I? You hit the blue key. That's right.
And then the decimal point.
That's exactly it. So the decimal is right below the 2 if you're wondering where that is. Now I need to close parentheses. And now this is what was confusing to a lot of people. What do you put? So it says negative 3 subtract 7i. So in front of the 3 it needs to be a negative sign. And the negative sign is found below the 3. So negative 3, not subtract 3. Then it's subtract 7i. Okay, this is my correct answer. I'm going to look at my choices, and it can be found. The next problem, I want you to circle where it says factor. And nowhere in the directions does it say to solve. It only says to factor. It does not say to solve. So you're not going to see answers like x equals 2, x equals 3. It's only factoring. So how do we factor this thing? You know, it really depends on your multiplication skills. So as I walk through this, I'm going to pretend like my skills of multiplying weren't very strong, just to show you how you can still achieve the correct answer. 6 times 7 is a positive 42. Behind it, I write same signs. I want to find two numbers that are the same signs that multiply to give me positive 42 and somehow combine to give me a negative 17. So here's what I'm doing if I don't have good multiplication skills. I'm taking this and dividing it by 1. And I'm saying to myself, no, 1 and 42 does not somehow give me 17. Okay, now I'm going to take 42 and divide it by 2. 2 and 21, they don't give me 17. Divide it by 3. Oh, 3 and 14, that can give me 17. How can 3 and 14 somehow give me a negative 17? They would both have to be negative because they're the same sign. So I'm going to put this down. Here we go. X minus 3 and x minus 14. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people are going to turn and say, so this number of 6 is what people forget. They forget to divide by 6. I put 6 here and 6 here. And then I ask myself, can I reduce it? Let's try. Now, if you're not great with reducing your head, I'm going to do 3 over 6. So 3 divided by 6. I hit the math, enter, enter. Okay, so one of them is 1/2. And then I do 14 divided by 6 if I can't do it in my head. And the other is 7/3. Now, if we look at our choices, you're like, but that's not what I have. Remember, bottoms up. So one answer is 2x minus 1, and then 3x minus 7. Do we see that answer here? 2x minus 1, 3x minus 7. This is equivalent to this. This is equivalent to this. It's just factor. Directions, and we are going to, I'm going to read them out loud, and we are going to focus on what are they trying to have us do here. It says solve the quadratic equation using square roots. And you know what I wanted to do here? I want you to write by factoring. I copy and pasted this, and I should have put by factoring. So we're going to solve by factoring. Please do that. Solve by factoring. Solve by factoring. So the equation is x squared subtract 3x subtract 18. So 1 times negative 18 is negative 18. Can we think of two numbers that multiply to equal negative 18 and somehow combine to equal negative 3? Multiply to equal negative 18 and somehow combine to equal negative 3. The answers would be 6 and 3. How do I know which one's positive, which one's negative? The larger number will always have this sign. The larger number would be negative. So I have x minus 6 and x plus 3. Because the leading coefficient is a 1, I don't have to worry about putting this underneath. It doesn't change anything. Remember, these lied to us. So one answer is 6, and the other answer is negative 3. So that's one answer, and here's the other. So in problem number 12, we are asked to identify the equation for what we are provided. So put a little dot here for me, please. And I want you to write 3 and positive 2, I think that is. This is the ordered pair 3, 2. So how do we come up with the equation? Well, notice how, just like a parabola, how it is opening up downwards. Because it's opening up downwards, I know the number out front is negative. So cross out anything that does not have a negative number out front. We move to the right 3 and up 2. So if it is to the right 3, would it be x plus 3 or x minus 3? Minus 3. So anything without a minus 3, I cross out. So I'm down to 2 choices. And then I go up 2. So in back, should it be a plus 2 or a minus 2?
Plus.
That's correct. There's your correct answer. So we're going to talk using 3 words. Go to number 13 and underline the words decrease, increase, and constant. Whenever you read this, you're going to read from left to right. Whenever you read this, you read from left to right. Left to right. Okay, and so picture yourself skateboarding, running, walking, bicycling. And think of the words downhill, uphill, and flat. So if you're going on this line right now, would you be going downhill, uphill, or flat?
Down.
Down, okay? So put a D for decreasing here. What about this part?
Normal.
Normal, it's just flat, right? We use the word constant for flat. And now from left to right, what would you be doing here?
You're going to go up.
Uphill or increasing. Remember, you do have a multiple choice test tomorrow, so even though we're plugging these in, it is multiple choice. So now we have to describe this. And when we describe it, we only describe it in terms of x values. Only x values. So we're going to start with the decreasing one. Does everybody see this arrow? This arrow means it will continue to go in this direction, okay? It will never stop going in this direction. It will just continue to go in this direction. So we use the negative infinity sign that represents it will never stop going in this direction. And it continues to decrease until it gets to this value, negative 2. Okay, let's go over constant. From negative 2 to positive 1. From negative 2 to positive 1, it's constant. And what x value does it start to increase at? It starts to increase at 1, and as it goes to the right, it continues to increase. So we are going to factor here for 14. We are going to factor. So how do I factor? So I'm underlining the first 2. And I'm asking myself, what can I take out of the first 2? So there's a 4 and an 8. What's the most I can take out of 4 and 8? Yeah, I could take out 2, but is there something greater I can divide out? Good, I can divide out 4. What's the most x's I can take out of both? 2. And then I have to ask myself, 4 times what numerical value equals 4?
1.
And I need 3 x's. How many more do I need? 1. 4 times what equals positive 8?
2.
And I need 2 x's. I already have them. That's the hardest thing. Whatever is in parentheses, I'm going to copy and paste it in back. And I'm going to put a really light question mark here. Is there a number I can take times 1 and I get negative 9? Is there a number I can take times 1x and I get negative 9x? Well, let's check and see if that works. Negative 9 times 1 is negative 9 with the x. Negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. That's right. Okay, so we're on to the last process of just simply writing this down, last process. And so I take what they both have, which is a 1x plus 2. Then I write down 4x squared minus 9. Now, this is correct. This is correct. So I would give credit to this. But I will also give credit to another answer, because this can be broken down into 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. So I would give credit on Thursday for either this answer or this answer. This is fully simplified, but I would definitely give credit for A. So factoring number 15. How do we factor? So I have 6x squared, subtract 11x plus 3. Multiplies to give you positive 18. So I know the two numbers I choose, if it's possible, will have the same sign. So I'm going to myself, okay, 1 and 18, no. 2 and 9, yeah, 2 and 9 could give me this. So how could 2 and 9 give me a negative 11? They would both have to be negative, and yet they still multiplied to give you 18. So I'm going to go over here and write x subtract 2 and x subtract 9. And then remember, this leading coefficient has to go underneath. And as I stated earlier, if you are not good with just simple reducing, you can go like this. 2 divided by 6, hit math, and that will reduce it for you. So I have negative 1/3, and I can hit math, and I have a negative 3/2. And remember, the bottom's up and bottom's up. So I have final answer of 3x minus 1 and 2x minus 3. And that answer could be found in number 16. Notice there's a 3 here. So 125 is 5 times 5 times 5. 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. There's 2 in the first parentheses, and the second parentheses has 3. This will always be a plus sign in every single expression. I'm taking a 5 and x from front and putting them in place, and a 3 in back, and then crossing it out. What sign goes here? The original sign from the expression. This is always opposite of the original. Okay, in front, I have 2 5s, multiplies to give us 25, 2 x's in front. In back, 3 times 3 is 9. And how do we get this term? We multiply, and don't worry about the signs. 5 times 3 is 15 with an x. 15x. Do we see that here? We have 5x plus 3. Okay, so I got all those. Then I need 25x squared, so it's this one or this one, minus 15x plus 9. I will provide you with a quadratic formula. Can everybody write it down, please? I will provide you with this on the board. Okay, so I'm going to start with just identifying the A, the B, and the C. So A is 3, B is negative 4, and C is 3. And I'm going to start with what is inside here. So don't worry about the square root. We're going to do what's inside. Anytime we plug something in, we're going to hug it. So here we go. I'm going to hug the B, and I'm typing in negative 4. Make sure you've hugged it, and I'm squaring it. Then I'm subtracting 4. I'm hugging the A, which is 3. And I'm going to hug the C, which is 3. This is called the discriminant, and I get an answer of negative 20. Negative 20. Louise, can you tell the class anytime they have a square root and there is a negative sign inside the square root, like a negative 20 in this case, what type of answers, what will they see for answers? I's. Did you ever hear what Louise said? If you have a square root with a negative, look for I. So let's look at our choices. Does A have an I? Cross it out. Does C have an I? It could be C. See the I here, guys? Does B have an I? Could be that. Does D have? So I'm down to a 50% chance of getting this right. If I do nothing else, I have a 50% chance of getting this right. Okay, so this I, you're going to want to come up here, and you want to get a packet real quick. Okay, this I is going to sneak out front, and it becomes, this negative sign sneaks out front and becomes an I. So I have the square root of 20. And you're like, well, how does the square root of 20 end up being 13 or 5? Like, how do I know which one it is? So remember, I have to look at that list, and here's the perfect squares that will be on the board. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. So I know that 20 is in between 16 and 25. And I'm going to go one by one to see, can I reduce this? So how am I doing that? I have a 20. And I'm going to go 20, divided by 16. If I get a nice integer answer, oh, no, that's ugly. Then 20 divided by 9, oh, that's ugly. Then 20 divided by 4, oh, that's pretty. Okay, there we go. This breaks into 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2, with the square root of 5 is ugly. So I know I'm going to be left with the square root of 5. Look, guys, there's only one choice that has a square root of 5. We don't have to go any further. We don't have to go any further. Why? Because here is left with the square root of 13. I know this is going to be a square root of 5. Could we keep going? Yes, and I'll do that for us, but we don't have to. So I have 2i square roots of 5. That's what this portion was. There's a plus or minus in front. This means negative b, so it means change the sign on b. Changing the sign gives you a positive 4. On the bottom, I'm going to take 2 times a. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay? So now, do you see how each one of these is just a positive even number? So I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2, there's your 2. Divide by 2, this is a 1. Divide by 2, there's your 3. That's how you get an answer of. Okay, so for this problem, we are going to model a toy rocket that's launched from the ground up into the air, and it comes back down and hits the ground. And then we're going to answer these questions based on what we see. Okay, so let's first plug in this equation that we have. So y equals this amount. You're doing the same with me. So how do I get there? I'm going to Desmos, and I'm going to plug this in. Y equals, okay, here we go. Y equals negative, and you're like, what about the t? You can make it an x. It's the same thing. Negative 16x squared plus plus 128, and again, we're not going to say a t, we'll say an x. So this is what I have. And now let's just try to use your fingers here and move this so that you're able to see everything. Okay, so that's the height of the rocket. If this follows the pathway, that's the height of the rocket. So the first question says, what's the maximum height? So I come up here, I'd like you to do the same, and I'd like to click on that. Does this mean the maximum height is, and this is in terms of, I want to check the right units, this is in terms of feet. Does that mean the maximum height of the rocket is 4 feet above the ground or 256 feet above the ground? Turn to your partner, go. Which one is it? It's the second number. The second number gives you your height. So this is the height, the maximum height of the rocket. The second one says, how long will it take before it hits the ground? Time is your x value. So click where it hits the ground. It will take 8 seconds. So if I come back over here, I'm looking for 256. That's how high it gets. And it takes 8 seconds before it hits the ground according to the equation that's supposed to follow the pathway of the toy rocket. So we want to be able to get the answer and do it with the least amount of work. It says here, where's the maximum going to be? So which equation has a maximum? So above this right vertex, if it's the maximum of a parabola, it means it's the highest point. So does problem A have a maximum, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, because there's one point that stands alone as the highest. Does problem B have a maximum?
No.
No, this would be a minimum. Cross this out. Does problem C have a maximum?
Yes.
Okay, this could be it. Does problem D have a maximum? Nope, it has a minimum. Okay, so between these two, let's figure out which one goes to negative 2, 9. Negative 2, 9. So go over 2 and up 9. That looks good to me. Let's check the next one. If I go over 2 and up 9, that looks like it's slightly off. Do you guys see the difference? So correct answer is A. Question 20, it says, hey, we got an equation, and this is in standard form, and I want to know what would be the equivalent equation in vertex form. So here's what I want us to do. I'll show you how to do the first one. I'm going to plug this into Desmos, and then I'm going to plug in A. If they're the exact same, I know it's the answer. If not, then I'm going to switch it to B and compare these. If it's not, then I'm going to go to C. So watch me do the first one, please. I'm plugging in exactly what I saw in standard form. It was negative 2x squared. It's in the question if you're wondering where I'm getting this. Plus 12x minus 5. Okay, so that's what we have. Now I'm going to plug in A. So A is y equals negative 2x minus 3, square it, and plus 13. Oh my goodness, is that the exact same?
Yes.
It looks like it, doesn't it? Let me try B just because I want a wrong answer instead. Let me try B. Does everybody see how those are different?
Yes.
I just plugged in B. If I move this, does everybody see how those are not the same? Okay, so it can't be B. Let me show you C. Let me show you C for a second. Here's option C. Does everybody see how those are not the same?
Yeah.
And let's do one more time. Let's go on to D. Here's D. Whoa, those are way off. Does everybody see those? So only one choice, and that's option A. I want you to practice right now plugging in the standard equation you're given along with option A, and I want you to show yourself that they're exactly the same. Okay, so 21 we're just going to rewrite equation 21. It says 50x squared subtract 18. Underline 50 and 18. They're both even numbers. When something is an even number, automatically we can divide by 2. We may be able to divide by more than 2, but automatically we can divide by 2. So let's pull out a 2. 2 times 25 is 50. 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. So when you see 25 and 9, I will write these perfect squares on the board. This is going to break into two things. 25 breaks into 5 and 5, and 9 breaks into 3 and 3. So this is what I'm looking for, and the correct answer is option B. 22 is much like 20. So here's what they say. They say, okay, we've got this, and we could plug that in. So let me show you how to plug it in. If I come back up here, I type in x, subtract 1 in parentheses. So I'm just going to alter kind of what I already had in here to be lazy. Okay, so it gives me this, and I can zoom in here. And now we want to be able to figure out what is the vertex. So I click on the bottom. The vertex is 1, negative 3. 1, negative 3. So I come back to the list. Anything that does not say a 1, negative 3 for the vertex is out. So that's good. It's not negative. That's good. Okay, it's not negative. So I have two choices right now. Is this considered vertex form, or is this considered standard form? This is vertex form. Correct answer is C.